You have come here because you sense, perhaps dimly, that there is something within you that perceives differently, that your eyes catch shadows where others see only light, that your dreams carry weight and terror and wonder that you cannot so easily dismiss. To see what others do not is not merely a gift, it is a burden, and it is one of the most dangerous positions a human being can occupy, for the world is structured around the agreements of perception. What is real, what is safe, what is tolerable, and those who step outside of this fragile pact are quickly called mad, visionary, or outcast. And yet, I tell you, the psyche does not grant vision without purpose. The danger lies not in the vision itself, but in the one who dares to carry it without preparation. The collective prefers blindness. It prefers to live in the comfort of the known, the ordinary, the repeated rituals that safeguard the ego from the storms of chaos. But the one who sees, who dreams the archetypal dream, who senses the serpent beneath the mask of civility, who hears the murmur of the unconscious beneath the polite chatter, becomes the disturber of the peace. You are no longer permitted to sit quietly among the herd, for your very presence threatens the illusion. They look at you and feel something uncanny, because you mirror back the truth that they cannot bear to acknowledge. And yet, my warning is this: do not mistake seeing for knowing. To glimpse is not to integrate. Many souls have been destroyed because they thought that the vision alone was enough, that the sudden illumination of a dream, the shattering epiphany of a symbol, was the crown of wisdom. No, it is only the beginning. To see what others do not is to be thrown into exile between worlds. On one side, the safety of the collective with its familiar myths and unquestioned truths. On the other, the abyss, the domain of symbols that twist and burn, that demand sacrifice, that dismantle the ego until you no longer know who you are. Consider the dream of a patient who came to me many years ago. He dreamt of standing in a great cathedral, but the windows were broken and the altar cracked open. From the fissure emerged a black sun, radiating a darkness that did not extinguish light but consumed it. This vision shook him deeply. His family dismissed it as nonsense, a mere nightmare, but he could not let it go. He saw in it the collapse of the structures of meaning he had trusted all his life. To carry such a dream is dangerous, for it isolates you from the others. Yet it is also a call, a summons to enter the underworld of the psyche. Do you see now? The danger is double. On one hand, you may surrender to the blindness of others. Suppress your vision, tell yourself you imagined it, and so betray your own soul. On the other hand, you may become intoxicated with your vision, inflate yourself, imagine that you are a prophet, a savior, chosen above all others, and so be swallowed by the archetype itself. Between these extremes lies the narrow road of individuation, where vision is integrated, tested, humbled, and lived. The psyche is not kind to those who meddle with its mysteries without reverence. To see what others do not is to awaken forces that can undo the fragile fabric of the ego. Think of the myths, Prometheus, who stole fire from the gods, punished eternally for daring to see beyond human limits. Think of Cassandra, cursed to speak the truth that no one believed, driven to despair by her own vision. These are not merely stories, but warnings from the collective unconscious itself. They tell us that to see beyond the veil is to risk rejection, madness, even destruction, unless one can hold the tension of opposites and bear the loneliness that follows. I must tell you this: the unconscious does not send visions because it wishes to flatter you. It sends them because there is work to be done. Every vision is a seed that must be planted in the soil of your life. If it is not grounded, it withers, or worse, it poisons you. A dream unintegrated becomes neurosis. A symbol unexamined becomes obsession. A vision unbalanced becomes delusion. The danger is not in the seeing itself, but in your relation to what is seen. You may ask, why me? Why should I see what others cannot? Why should I bear this strange burden? There is no simple answer, except that life, in its unfathomable complexity, has chosen you as a vessel. Some are called to sea because they must carry something on behalf of the collective, something that has been repressed, something that cries out from the shadow. Others are given vision because their soul itself requires transformation, and without the wound, they would remain asleep. I have witnessed many who tried to run from this burden. They drowned themselves in work, in alcohol, in shallow pleasures, in the pursuit of external success, but the vision does not leave. It returns in dreams, in strange encounters, in synchronicities that rattle the cage of reason. The unconscious is relentless. Once it has opened your eyes, it does not permit you to close them again. You cannot unsee what you have seen. The danger, then, is not that the vision will vanish, but that it will consume you if you do not learn to dance with it. To see what others do not is to stand at the threshold of initiation. Every ancient culture knew this truth. The shaman, the oracle, the seer, all carried the gift and the curse of perception beyond the ordinary. But initiation was always accompanied by ordeal. The seer must descend, must suffer, must be broken before returning with wisdom. In our modern world, we have forgotten this necessity. We encounter vision without ritual, without guidance, without the structures that once contained it. And so many collapse. They wander into madness or into the inflation of believing themselves chosen, when in truth they are simply overwhelmed by the forces of the unconscious. I warn you, then, not to trust too quickly what you see. Symbols must be digested slowly, lived into, carried with humility. Do not shout your vision to those who cannot hear it, for they will trample it, and you will be wounded twice, once by the vision itself, and again by the scorn of others. Instead, carry it like a secret flame. Protect it, nurture it, allow it to teach you in silence. When the time is right, the vision will reveal its meaning, not through explanation, but through the way your life itself changes. The collective resists vision because it threatens its stability. When you speak a truth that others cannot bear, they will call you dangerous. They will project their fear onto you, accuse you of madness or heresy. This has always been so, but the danger is not in their rejection, but in your reaction. If you respond with bitterness, you become trapped in resentment. If you respond with arrogance, you become inflated and lose your soul. The only path is to bear the loneliness, to carry the tension, and to trust that the psyche itself is guiding you toward wholeness. Perhaps you feel already the weight of this. Perhaps you have seen something in a dream, or in the way others act, or in the secret patterns of your own relationships that no one else acknowledges. Perhaps you sense the shadow lurking beneath the mask of someone who smiles too brightly. Perhaps you dream of death when everyone else insists that all is well. This is the danger, to know what others deny, but it is also the beginning of freedom, for to see is to awaken, and once awakened, you are no longer bound by the unconscious fate that chains the collective. The world fears those who see because they cannot be controlled so easily. They no longer believe the old myths. They are no longer seduced by empty promises. They walk with a different rhythm, guided not by the noise of the crowd, but by the silent voice of the unconscious. Such a one is dangerous, yes, but not because they destroy. They are dangerous because they reveal, and nothing terrifies the world more than revelation. So I ask you, are you willing to bear this danger? Are you willing to suffer misunderstanding, exile, even the loss of belonging, in order to live authentically with what you have seen? For if you betray your vision, you betray your soul, and if you betray your soul, no amount of comfort will ever satisfy you again. The danger of seeing what others do not is the danger of becoming yourself. And that, my friends, is the most terrifying task of all. You may wonder what it truly means to live with such a vision. To carry it within yourself is like carrying a secret fire that illuminates and burns at the same time. You cannot extinguish it. And yet you cannot always show it to the world without consequence. In your solitude, you turn it over again and again, like a stone in your hand, feeling its weight, its texture, its sharp edges. Slowly, it begins to reshape you, not through a sudden blaze of knowledge, but through a long, patient process of transformation. That is why I have always said that individuation is not a theory, but a destiny. The vision that others cannot see presses upon you because it seeks to make you whole. And wholeness is not achieved by the avoidance of darkness, but by descending into it. To see what others do not is to confront the shadow more directly than most ever dare. For the collective prefers to project its shadow outward, onto scapegoats, onto enemies, onto those who can safely carry the burden of evil in their place. But when you see you are denied that luxury, you begin to notice the shadow not only in others, but also within yourself. It disturbs you because it whispers that the very qualities you despise, the very fears you condemn, are alive in your own depths, and so the danger grows. Not only are you isolated from the collective, but you are confronted with the darkness within that threatens to dismantle your self-image. I recall the case of a woman who dreamed each night of wolves prowling around her home. At first she feared that these wolves symbolized external enemies, people who wished her harm. But as the dreams repeated, and as we worked together to draw out their meaning, she came to see that the wolves were not only outside, but inside. They represented instincts she had long suppressed, aggressions she had denied, a raw vitality that she had smothered in order to remain polite and pleasing. The vision of the wolves was not meant to terrify her, but to awaken her to her own neglected strengths. Yet imagine the peril of such a discovery. For if she embraced the wolves too quickly, she risked becoming consumed by their ferocity. If she rejected them, she risked living half a life, torn between fear and denial. The vision forced her into the dangerous work of integration. This is the nature of the vision. It is ambivalent, two-edged, both creative and destructive. To see what others do not is to be torn between the terror of annihilation and the promise of rebirth. Many fall into despair here because they believe they must choose one side. They cling to the light and repress the dark, or they are seduced by the dark and lose the light. But the psyche does not call us to one extreme or the other. It calls us to hold the tension of both, to endure the paradox until a third thing emerges, something greater than the opposites. This is why I have often said that the symbol is the best possible expression of what is not yet known. It contains both sides. It holds the unbearable contradiction, and it opens the way forward. Yet who among us can endure such tension? The human instinct is to resolve, to escape, to simplify, but the one who sees cannot so easily escape. They are caught between worlds, suspended on the cross of opposites. If they endure, if they suffer without collapsing into one side or the other, something miraculous happens. The psyche begins to reveal a new pattern, a new myth, a new possibility. The old self dies and a new self is born. But such birth is always preceded by the pain of dissolution. This is why vision is dangerous. Not because it lies, but because it demands more from you than you thought you could bear. It asks you to give up certainty, to wander in the wilderness of unknowing, to confront the chaos of your own depths without guarantee of survival. The collective will not understand this. They will call you lost, deluded, even cursed. And in a sense, you are cursed for. To see is to lose the comfort of blindness. But you are also blessed, for blindness is a prison, and sight, though dangerous, is the path to freedom. The archetypes that emerge in such visions are not gentle, They are primordial, vast, impersonal forces that sweep through the psyche like storms. The mother, the father, the child, the trickster, the shadow, each comes with both face of blessing and face of terror. To meet them is to stand before God, and the human ego is small and fragile in their presence. This is why ritual and myth were always necessary, to mediate between human and archetype, to contain the power, so it would not destroy the individual. But in our modern world, the old myths have collapsed, and many face these archetypal forces alone, without guidance. It is little wonder that so many break under the strain. Let me tell you this: if you have seen what others do not, you are already in contact with the archetypal. It may come as a dream that shakes you, or a synchronicity that feels too exact to dismiss, or a sudden insight that rearranges your whole sense of reality. However it arrives, it carries the weight of the collective unconscious, and it must be handled with care. You cannot banish it by rational argument, nor can you master it by will alone. You must enter into dialogue with it, as one would with a powerful figure in a dream. Ask it what it wants, listen to its message, negotiate with it, do not dismiss it, and do not surrender blindly to it. This is the path of individuation, neither denial nor possession, but relationship. You may feel fear in this process, and rightly so, for the danger of possession is real. The archetypes hunger for expression, and if you are not conscious, they will live through you unconsciously. I have seen men who believed they were heroes, only to become tyrants, possessed by the archetype of power. I have seen women who believed they were saviors, only to become martyrs, consumed by the archetype of the mother. When you see what others do not, the archetypes are closer, more insistent, more demanding. The danger is that you confuse their vast impersonal force with your personal identity. Then you are inflated, swollen with archetypal energy, and collapse becomes inevitable. So I warn you again, humility is your shield. To see is not to be greater than others, but to be more burdened. You are not chosen in the sense of superiority, but in the sense of responsibility. The vision is not a crown, but a cross. If you carry it humbly, if you allow it to work upon you rather than inflate you, it will lead you toward wholeness. But if you use it to elevate yourself above others, it will destroy you. And yet, even with humility, the loneliness is great. To see what others do not is to walk a path that few will understand. You may find yourself estranged from friends, misunderstood by family, dismissed by colleagues. The collective fears what you carry because it unsettles their fragile sense of order. You will be tempted to betray your vision in order to belong, to silence yourself in order to be loved. But I tell you, belonging bought at the price of the soul is no belonging at all. You will sit among them, but you will know you are absent. You will laugh with them, but your laughter will be hollow. The soul does not forgive betrayal. So you must cultivate inner companionship. You must learn to befriend your own depths, to converse with the figures of your dreams, to walk with the archetypes as if they were companions on your journey. You must learn to draw strength, not only from external validation, but from the inner dialogue with the unconscious. Then the loneliness, though still painful, becomes bearable, even fruitful. For in solitude, the vision ripens, and in silence, the meaning grows. The danger then becomes the very path of salvation. For the danger of seeing what others do not is the danger of individuation itself. It threatens to destroy your old self, your old certainties, your old belonging. But what it offers in return is the birth of a self that is whole, that is real, that is no longer bound by the unconscious fate of the collective. It offers the possibility of living not as a fragment, but as a totality. And yet, how rarely do we dare such a path? Most turn away, preferring the comfort of blindness. Few dare to endure the fire of vision. That is why I say this warning is for the few. To see what others do not is not a path for the many. It is a narrow road, dangerous, lonely, but also holy. If you have been given such a vision, it is not because you are better, but because you are called, and the call, though dangerous, is a voice of your own soul seeking to be born. When you begin to live with a vision that separates you from the ordinary, your dreams themselves become charged with a different quality. They are no longer the casual fragments of daily residue, but begin to carry the weight of myth. They speak in images that are larger than your personal life, images that seem to belong to the whole of humanity. You may dream of a flood sweeping through cities, of a tree that stretches from the depths of the earth to the heights of the heavens, of a figure cloaked in shadow who follows you no matter how far you run. These are not merely your own dreams. They are the language of the collective unconscious speaking through you, demanding your attention, demanding that you bear what others cannot see. But here lies another danger: to confuse the personal with the archetypal, and the archetypal with the literal. Many mistake a dream of death for a prediction of their physical end, when in truth it may signify the death of an attitude, a belief, a way of being. Others dream of light and interpret it as a call to divinity, when in fact it may conceal the danger of inflation, the temptation to identify with the godlike rather than remain human. The unconscious speaks in riddles, and to take its symbols at face value is to court disaster. You must learn the subtle art of interpretation, not by imposing meanings, but by listening, by feeling into the resonance of the image, by allowing it to unfold over time. I recall the dream of a young man who came to me, trembling with both awe and terror. He dreamed he stood before a great mountain, and at its peak blazed a golden light. He felt drawn upward, compelled to climb, but as he began his ascent, he noticed corpses strewn along the path, the bodies of those who had attempted before him and failed. He woke in a sweat, convinced that the dream had called him to greatness, but also fearing that it meant his destruction. In truth, the dream was neither promise nor curse. It was a revelation of the archetypal journey itself, the call to climb toward the self, toward wholeness, but with a clear warning that the path is littered with those who could not bear the ordeal. To see such a dream is to be summoned, but also to be warned. The journey is perilous, and few complete it without breaking. The archetype of the self often reveals itself in such overwhelming images: the golden mountain, the radiant mandala, the divine child, the unifying symbol that draws all opposites into one. But beware, contact with the self is not gentle. It shatters the ego's fragile illusions of control. It brings both healing and terror, for it reveals that you are not master of your own psyche, but servant to a greater wholeness. Those who see this are tempted to identify with the self, to proclaim themselves enlightened, awakened, chosen, and in that very inflation, they fall into possession. Swallowed by the archetype they mistook for their own identity. You must understand, to be chosen by a vision does not make you a god. It makes you a servant of the psyche. The self is vast, eternal, beyond your comprehension. You are but one vessel through which it expresses itself. If you identify with it, you collapse into megalomania. If you deny it, you fall into despair. The only path is the middle way, to live in relationship with it, to honor it without becoming it, to let its symbols shape your life without mistaking them for personal grandeur. This is why the danger of vision is so profound. It is not only the rejection of others you must face, but also the temptation within yourself to misuse what you have seen. To see what others do not can become a weapon for the ego. I know what you do not, therefore I am greater. But this is the most subtle trap of all. For the moment you inflate yourself with vision, you have already betrayed it. The vision is not yours. It belongs to the unconscious, to the collective, to the mystery that uses you as its mouthpiece. Your task is not to possess it, but to be possessed by it, consciously, willingly, humbly. Only then does it transform you without destroying you. Consider the archetype of the prophet, which appears in many cultures. The prophet sees what others do not, speaks truths that others cannot bear, and often suffers exile, ridicule, even death. But the prophet is not chosen for his own sake. He is chosen to carry a message, to embody a symbol that the collective needs to hear. The prophet who confuses his vision with his ego becomes a tyrant, a manipulator, a false savior. The prophet who humbly carries the vision, even unto suffering, becomes a channel through which the psyche renews itself. Here lies the dividing line between madness and transformation, between inflation and individuation, I do not say these things to frighten you. Though fear is appropriate, I say them to awaken you to the gravity of what it means to see. If you have glimpsed what others cannot, you must take it with utmost seriousness, as though you were entrusted with sacred fire. You cannot play with it, cannot display it for applause, cannot hoard it for your own vanity. You must live it, suffer it, allow it to shape you until it has fulfilled its purpose. Then, and only then, can it be shared not as dogma, not as proclamation, but as the quiet authority of a life transformed. And yet, there is also grace in this burden, for though the vision isolates you from the collective, it also connects you more deeply to the ground of being itself. You begin to notice synchronicities, those strange coincidences that reveal an underlying order to events. You begin to feel guided, not in the sense of being spared from suffering, but in the sense of being woven into a larger tapestry that gives meaning to your suffering. You begin to taste the numinous, that mysterious quality of experience that transcends reason, that fills you with awe and dread at once. This is the gift hidden within the danger. To see what others do not is to touch the mystery of life itself, to glimpse the invisible currents that shape our destiny, but you must learn to contain it. Containment is everything. Without containment, the vision floods you, overwhelms you, drowns you. With containment, it becomes like water channeled into a vessel, nourishing, life-giving. Containment comes through ritual, through symbol, through art, through dialogue, through conscious reflection. When you paint the image from your dream, when you write the poem that expresses your vision, when you enact a small ritual that honors the archetype, you give form to the formless, and in doing so, you make it bearable. The unconscious craves expression, but it also demands respect. If you refuse to express it, it will force itself upon you through neurosis. If you express it crudely, it will consume you. But if you give it symbolic form, you enter into a dialogue that can transform both you and the collective. This is why the artist, the poet, the mystic are so often misunderstood. They see what others do not, and they labor to give it form, but their work is rarely appreciated in their own time because it unsettles the collective only later. Sometimes generations later does the meaning of their vision become clear. To live as such a one is to accept obscurity, to accept the loneliness of being ahead of your age, but it is also to serve the future, to plant seeds that will bloom when the collective is ready. The danger of seeing what others do not then is inseparable from the calling to live for more than yourself. You cannot hold such vision for your own comfort alone. It demands that you become a vessel, a bridge between the unconscious and the world, between the eternal and the temporal. This is why it feels so heavy, so impossible. At times, You are asked to carry more than your share, and yet, if you refuse, the weight does not vanish. It falls back into the collective as chaos, as destruction, as war. The unconscious will find expression one way or another. Better that it be carried consciously, even painfully, than erupt unconsciously as disaster. So you stand at the crossroads. To deny the vision is to betray the soul. To inflate with the vision is to betray reality. To humbly live with the vision is to walk the dangerous path of transformation. There is no easy way, no safe way, but the dangerous way is also the way of life. For only in danger do we awaken to the fullness of our being. And let me tell you, there are moments, even in the midst of the danger, when the vision reveals its beauty, when the dream that terrifies also shines with unbearable radiance, when the archetype that crushes also lifts you into ecstasy, when the loneliness of exile is pierced by a sudden knowing that you are not alone, that the whole of humanity, the whole of creation, walks with you in secret. These are fleeting moments, but they are enough to sustain you, enough to remind you that the danger is not for nothing. For in the end, the danger of seeing what others do not is the danger of becoming more fully alive, more fully human, more fully whole. And so we come to the final movement of this reflection, where all the threads must be drawn together, where the danger itself reveals its hidden meaning. For everything I have told you, the burden of isolation, the confrontation with the shadow, the peril of inflation, the ordeal of archetypes, these are not punishments but initiations. The psyche is not cruel for the sake of cruelty. It tests, it tears apart, it demands sacrifice, because only through this crucible can something new be born. To see what others do not is to be initiated into the mystery of the self, and initiation has always been dangerous. When you stand before the vision, trembling, uncertain, wounded by rejection, and torn between light and darkness, you are standing at the threshold of transformation. The danger lies not in what you have seen, but in what you will do with it. If you clutch it in fear, it festers. If you display it in pride, it inflates. If you ignore it, it returns in forms more destructive. But if you carry it with reverence, if you allow it to guide your steps without demanding that it spare you from pain, then the danger itself becomes the midwife of your rebirth. The old self must die. This is the truth at the heart of every vision. The you who lived safely within the agreements of the collective, who accepted the myths of others without question, who silenced the shadow and hid from the archetypes, this self cannot survive the vision, and so it resists, it clings, it screams in terror as it feels itself unraveling. This is why the experience feels like madness, why so many break at this stage. They cannot bear to let go of the old self, and yet they cannot deny the vision. They are torn apart, unable to be who they were, and not yet able to be who they are, becoming, if you endure this death, If you let the old fall away without clinging, you will find that the vision, once terrifying, begins to shift. It no longer burns you with its fire. It warms you with its light. The shadow, once monstrous, reveals itself as wounded child, as neglected strength, as hidden truth. The archetypes, once overwhelming, begin to take their place as companions, guides, teachers. The vision integrates. It becomes not something that isolates you from others, but something that roots you more deeply in your humanity. You discover that the very things that made you different, dangerous, unbearable to others are the very things that connect you to the whole of life. For to see what others do not is not finally about separation, it is about unity. The danger was always the passage. Once passed, you find yourself no longer apart from humanity, but woven into its depths in a new way. You see that your vision was never for you alone. It was given so that you might carry something on behalf of others, something that they could not yet bear. In carrying it, you have suffered for them, and in suffering, you have transformed it. Now, when you speak, your words no longer come from the inflated ego, but from the deeper ground of the psyche. And though many may still resist, some will recognize in your voice the resonance of truth, the echo of something they too had glimpsed but could not name. This is the vocation of the seer, the mystic, the depth psychologist. Not to parade visions as personal glory, but to mediate between the unconscious and the world, to give form to what was formless, to bring into speech what lay hidden in silence. It is a lonely calling, yes, but it is also a sacred one, for the collective cannot heal what it cannot see, and it cannot see without those willing to bear the danger of vision. Think of the myths again. The hero who descends into the underworld does not do so for himself alone. He goes to retrieve a treasure, a truth, a healing power that the community needs. When he returns, scarred and changed, the people may not understand his ordeal, but they receive the gift he brings. In this way, the personal and the collective are bound together. Your vision is not only yours, it is a gift, even if it arrives wrapped in terror. This is why I urge you, if you have seen what others do not, to remain faithful to it. Do not betray it for comfort. Do not inflate it for pride. Do not silence it in despair. Carry it as one carries a secret flame, protecting it from the winds of scorn and the storms of doubt. Let it teach you slowly. Let it break you and remake you. Let it show you not only the darkness of the world, but also the light that shines within the darkness. For the two are never separate. The deeper you descend into shadow, the brighter the flame becomes. The more danger you endure, the more wholeness you uncover. In the end, to see what others do not, is to awaken to the reality that life itself is a mystery beyond comprehension. The collective may pretend that all is clear, all is rational, all is controllable. But you know otherwise. You have seen the cracks in the surface, the abyss beneath, the vast powers moving behind the curtain of ordinary life. This knowledge can destroy you. Yes, but it can also liberate you. For once you have seen, you are no longer bound by the illusions of control. You no longer need to cling to certainties that crumble. You can live with paradox, with mystery, with the unknown. And in that, you are freer than those who remain blind. This freedom is not without cost. You will always feel the loneliness of difference. You will always carry wounds that others cannot understand. But you will also taste the depth of meaning that others may never know. You will know what it means to be alive in the fullest sense, to participate in the unfolding drama of the psyche, to live not as a passive spectator, but as an active participant in the great mystery of existence. And if, at times, you feel crushed beneath the weight of it, remember this. The unconscious does not give us more than we are capable of bearing. It may seem unbearable, but within you there is a strength you do not yet know, a resilience that grows only under pressure, a light that shines brightest in darkness. The very fact that you have been given the vision is proof that you have the capacity to endure it. Trust this. Trust the psyche. Trust the self that guides you. Even when the path leads through terror, I have spent my life listening to dreams, to visions, to the cries of the soul that others could not hear. Again and again I have seen the same pattern. The vision that threatens to destroy becomes the seed of transformation. The danger is real, but it is the danger of birth. The pain is real, but it is the pain of becoming. Do not turn away. Do not run. Stay with it. Carry it. Live it. For in the end, the danger of seeing what others do not is the very thing that makes you whole. And so I leave you with this final thought. When you see you are not alone, you are part of a lineage of seers, prophets, artists, mystics, healers, all those who throughout history have borne the same burden. They too were misunderstood, rejected, exiled, and yet their visions became the seeds of culture, of art, of religion, of healing. Without them, humanity would stagnate in blindness. With them, humanity evolves. You are part of that great chain. Your vision is one link in the endless unfolding of the human soul. Honor it, even when it terrifies you. Honor it, even when it isolates you. For it is through such vision that life itself moves forward. The danger is great, the loneliness is real, but the meaning is greater still. And in the end, it is not danger that defines you, but the courage with which you walk through it. To see what others do not is to live at the edge of the mystery, and though few dare to hear this warning, those who do will find that the danger is not only bearable, it is the very threshold of the self, the doorway to wholeness, the passage through which the soul enters its true life.